Hello, everybody. Welcome to another take of Zooming with Kaymitch. I'm excited to have my next caller on. It's a very special strength coach of mine. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and add her.
Hello, hello.
Hello, I cannot see you yet. Hold on. It's still.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
there you go.
hi. What's up?
Hey, thank you for tuning in and being on Zooming with Kaymitch. I'm happy to have you on. Without further ado, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. Well, I am Lindsey Kirschman, and I currently work at the University of Utah with women's basketball. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, but there's been a long history that has led me up to this point. I think the most important part of a coach's story is how they got to where they are. And I started out an athlete, like most coaches,
Mhm.
and a lot of what I do now is impacted by how my athletic career was, both in positive and negative ways. I was a track athlete. My basketball players make fun of me all the time because I'm not very good at basketball, but I really love the sport. It's really fun to watch. It's really fun to play. I actually did play in high school, but I was mostly like good at defense.
Okay.
So I could run really fast, which is probably good that my sport was track and field. So I ran at the University of Washington. So actually in the same conference that I now coach for, just a different school, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
Um, and ran track and field there, and then was gonna work with wild horses for my career.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was in grad school for range science, but I found myself sneaking out of my lab every day to go volunteer coach at a high school.
Mhm.
And so eventually I just decided, I could probably stop sneaking around. I could just do this for my job.
Mhm.
So now here I am. I'm a strength coach. It's
Yes.
great.
Yes, wonderful. And we met each other at UCA, where
Yeah.
you contacted me so gratefully to, meet you and have that short period of time with you before Utah took you away. But no, it's
I
all
know,
good.
dang it.
It's all good. But
But
starting
here we are. We're still chatting, right?
yeah,
Maintain that connection.
absolutely. So starting off with the first question, how big of a factor does physically being in shape help your mental shape?
It's a great question and a good point. That the two go hand in hand. I think that it's possible to be in good physical shape and not be in good mental shape. Just like it's possible to have good mental health but not be in good physical health, but the two definitely impact each other. So to be in the best physical shape that you can be, it's really important to have good mental health too, right? You really haven't kind of reached your full capacity of what you can do if those two aren't at their maximum levels.
Mhm.
So even if you're doing everything possible nutritionally and everything possible in the weight room and practicing your sport, that your mental health is something that you ignore, then you're not reaching your best that you
Right.
could be. So yeah, it's very important.
How do you help shape your players' mental health?
So this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I know you're really passionate about it too. And we've probably both had people in our lives who have impacted our mental health in both positive and negative ways, and also just experienced times in our life when we felt like we could handle, um, stressors, and felt like when we couldn't, or like we felt like negatively impacted by the stressors that were going on in our life. And sometimes like that is because of another person, but sometimes it's just because of life, right?
Mhm.
Like we all have to handle that. So in my opinion, like, my job is to make these athletes physically resilient to the stresses they're going to experience on the basketball court. But my job title is director of sports performance. And there's so much more that goes into sports performance than physical preparation, right? Like I said before, it doesn't really matter what you do in the weight room. If you have really unhealthy mindset, it's probably not going to carry over to the basketball court, certainly not to the basketball game. So that part of it is really important. So we talk about that a lot. And I don't is that athletes are motivated by something that's long lasting. And I think that a lot of times we end up doing things out of fear, right? Like fear of making my coach mad, fear of disappointing my family, fear of not living up to my own expectations that I have for myself, fear of not making enough money for my family or whatever it is. Like a lot of our motivation ends up stemming from a place of fear. And the problem with that is a lot of times fears cause us to kind of shrink back and hide from things rather than step forward in boldness.
Right.
And if you think about like that kind of cheesy illustration of the mom, like being able to lift up a car so that she saves her kid, like love enables us to do insane things. It's a very strong motivator, and it's something that lasts forever. It's not temporary, right? Like, something like a paycheck. Okay, well, that's a pretty temporary motivator, right? I'm afraid I'm not gonna have enough. Well, I might like try really hard for a little while, but then if I don't get it, I'm not motivated anymore. Whereas love is something that lasts for a long time. So helping athletes refocus on why they love the sport, why they love each other as teammates. I help them by kind of having them remember why they first started playing and how they felt when they were just little, playing pickup basketball at recess and, scoring their first shot in a game and like all these things, right? Like, what is it that you love about your sport, whether or not anybody's watching you play, And so we talk a lot about love. Right now, I know South Carolina's basketball team, that's like their word of the year, is they're focusing on love and how love can motivate you to do some pretty amazing things on and off the basketball court. So if you haven't checked out anything about South Carolina women's basketball right now, you should check out their Instagram page. They have a pretty cool video posted about that. And as a part of that, it's really important that an athlete understands that their identity isn't defined by how they perform, right? Their performance as an athlete does not define them as a person.
Right.
That's probably the thing we talk about the most. Because if I think that how many points I score or my statistics are going to basically dictate my value to the world, then it's a scary thing to enter into a basketball game. Because if I fail, I am a failure.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Versus, I know my family loves me. I know my teammates love me. I know God loves me. I know that I love me for who I am as a human being. And if I step out on this basketball court and I give my best and it's not enough to win the game as a team, then that has no bearing on how everyone in my life that matters values me as a human being. And it also doesn't stop me from being extremely valuable in the world, right? Because what makes me me are the things that I value: love, joy, courage. And those things are going to be part of who I am, whether or not I score a certain number of points on the basketball court. And that just allows me to step a little bit lighter onto the court, knowing that burden, that weight isn't on my shoulders. Right. And chances are I'm going to have more fun when I'm playing. I'm going to be freer. I'm going to be lighter. I'm going to be more of a risk taker because I'm not so afraid. Yes. And probably all those things are going to make me play way better.
Absolutely. So, I love that. I love that because I think a lot of athletes, including myself, we get wrapped up in the sports and, like you said, the statistic. Am I playing good? Am I not? Am I still, worthy enough of being a team if I'm just sitting on the bench? Like what, what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people really hold their sport as their identity when we have to de-infiltrate ourselves to know, like, yes, I do play basketball, but I am not just a basketball player. I am more than that. So I love how you are really instilling that in your players. Hence that y'all have are in the top 25. Y'all doing much, y'all, being great. But that's, that's like you said, it's not as weight bearing, like all the pressures on me. You can play more freely. And you, like you said, probably will do better when you don't have all those pressures of, being yourself up.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the best examples of this that I have seen is one of our athletes, Jenna Johnson. I know she wouldn't mind me using her as an example because she's actually done an interview about this moment with the press. You can look it up. I'll send it to you. It's really powerful. But basically, we're in the top, we're in the Sweet 16. We're playing LSU, right? And we are pretty much, there's like a few seconds left on the clock, and basically it comes down to some free throws. And like, if our athlete makes the free throws, we're going to tie the game and have a chance to go into overtime and win. And if our athlete doesn't make the free throws, we're done with the season. And you think about like the defining moment of a basketball player. It's like, this is your worst fear, right? Like, the game comes down to my free throws, and it's like the biggest game of the year. My team has never been further than this point in the tournament. Like, here's our chance. It's up to me.
Talk about people in that moment.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this athlete is literally our most consistent player. Like, she doesn't miss free throws. She gets up and airballs the first free throw because like the pressure is enormous.
Yeah.
So she misses the free throws. We lose the game. Our season's over, and it's crushing for everyone, but particularly for her.
Yes.
Right. You can imagine how she feels in this moment. She's on the bench crying. Our coach is just has her arm around her and basically just says, like, Jenna, I would give you the ball again. Like, we trust you, we love you no matter what. Like, this does not define you, this does not define your career. And afterwards she talks about like recovering from that and how it was really, really hard, but she makes a point of being involved in so many other things besides basketball. She is really involved in our church. She goes and plays beach volleyball in the summer on a league. She tried surfing a few weeks ago. She like got a longboard this year and goes longboarding with her friends. Like, she tries really hard to be intentional about not just making basketball her life. Right. And what that does is it surrounds her with people who love her no matter what, because they're not just in it for her basketball performance. And so it's easier for her to see, oh yeah, my life isn't just dictated by this one thing that I do. It's just a part of me. It's not all of me. So I've been really impressed with how she's recovered from that moment and realized it's just a moment. It's a blip in my life. And everyone else probably focused on it way more than she's going to focus on it for the rest of her life, which is great. That's what we want for everybody.
That's good. I definitely would need to read that. And I do remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, this, come on.